What if I told you that when a man sees a woman as the one, he doesn't announce it, he doesn't confess it, and he doesn't even consciously realize it at first? The truth is far more subtle. The signs are not in what he says, but in the patterns of his behavior that betray where his instincts are leading him. And here is the brutal truth most women miss. A man doesn't fall in love the way you do. For him, attraction is instinctual, but commitment is strategic. He can be wildly drawn to a dozen women, but the one he sees as the one triggers something deeper, something primal, something he cannot simply turn off. A man is not scanning for romance the way you are. His brain is wired for survival and replication, and every decision he makes with women, whether he admits it or not, runs through this ancient filter. Most women confuse attention with intention. Just because a man is giving you energy, texting you, or even spending time with you, it does not mean he sees you as the one. In fact, many men give this kind of energy without any true depth behind it. But when he sees a woman as different, when he sees her as the woman he cannot replace, his entire operating system shifts. You've probably experienced the opposite side of this without realizing it. A man who seems invested suddenly turns cold, distracted, indifferent. That's not random. That's his instincts calculating whether or not you hold the traits that separate you from every other option in his orbit. If you've ever wondered why men chase hard and then fade, it's because you triggered desire, but not significance. And significance is the difference between being another woman and being the woman. So, what does it look like when significance takes root? First, you'll notice it in the way his attention becomes directional. Most men scatter their attention like confetti. They'll flirt, they'll joke, they'll compliment, they'll spread themselves thin across multiple women. But when a man sees a woman as the one, something changes. He stops diversifying. His instinct tells him that the risk of losing her outweighs the thrill of keeping his options open. Without even realizing it, he begins to close the doors that were once wide open. His nights out look different. His phone habits change. Not because you demanded it, but because his biology pushes him to guard the investment. Here's where you come in. Most women don't recognize this shift until it's too late. They mistake it for possessiveness, or they think it's just normal affection. But if you know what to look for, you gain an advantage. You can see with clarity whether his actions are driven by instinct or by convenience. And this matters, because one of the biggest mistakes women make is assuming every man who invests time is also investing his future. Time can be cheap. Future is costly. Think of it like this. A man can spend money on a dinner with almost anyone. That's low cost. But when he starts spending his resources, his mental energy, his long-term planning, his social reputation, that is high cost. When he sees you as the one, the equation flips. Instead of protecting himself, he starts protecting the connection. Instead of asking, "Is she good enough for me?" his brain starts whispering, "Am I good enough for her?" That shift is seismic, and most women miss it. Let's break down one of the first hidden signs. It's not in his words, it's in his attention to your safety. Not just physical safety, but social and emotional safety. A man who only sees you as temporary won't filter his behavior to shield you from discomfort. He'll crack jokes at your expense. He'll test how much disrespect you'll tolerate. He'll show up when it suits him. But when a man sees you as the one, he begins to act as a buffer between you and the world. He won't tolerate other men disrespecting you, and he won't put you in situations that make you feel unsafe. This instinct is primal. Men are territorial, and when he identifies you as his most valued territory, his protector instincts fire automatically. Now, Here's the trap. A lot of women confuse this with controlling behavior. They think, oh, he's just being jealous. He's just trying to dominate. But that's not what we're talking about here. There's a difference between insecurity and instinct. Insecurity says, I need to control her because I don't feel enough. Instinct says, I need to protect her because she is my greatest asset. Sétif. If you don't know the difference, you will push away men who would have given you everything while tolerating men who give you nothing but noise. Another sign most women overlook is how a man reacts to your flaws. A man who sees you as temporary will magnify your imperfections. He'll use them as an excuse to detach, to withhold, or to keep his options open. But a man who sees you as the one processes your flaws differently. He doesn't ignore them. He calculates them. He weighs them against your value. And if his instinct says you are irreplaceable, he will begin to adapt around your flaws instead of resisting them. Think about that for a second. A man doesn't adapt for just anyone. He adapts for the woman he sees as his only chance at significance. And you'll notice this in subtle ways. Maybe he starts adjusting his schedule to yours. Maybe he alters habits that he once defended with stubborn pride. Maybe he drops behaviors he knows you despise, not because you nagged, but because his brain associates you with his long-term survival. That's not romance. That's strategy at a level most women never even recognize. Here's the blunt truth. A man who sees you as the one begins to shift his identity around you. Not his personality, not his essence, but his strategy for life. His circle changes. His priorities change. His appetite for risk changes. And the earlier you learn to recognize this hidden shift, the earlier you stop wasting years with men who never had any intention of making that shift in the first place. The question is, do you know how to separate words from instincts? Do you know how to read the signs that reveal where his biology is truly investing? Because if you don't, you will keep mistaking attention for intention, and you'll never see the truth until it's too late. If this unfiltered truth makes sense to you, then you belong here. Subscribe, because the knowledge we share next week about male silence won't be found anywhere else. When a man begins to see a woman as the one, his instincts don't just shift in how he treats her, they shift in how he treats himself. This is one of the most hidden signs, because it doesn't always look romantic on the surface. Instead, it looks like self-correction. A man who never cared about his health suddenly starts working out. A man who lived recklessly with money starts thinking about savings. A man who once thrived on chaos begins searching for stability. Most women assume this has nothing to do with them, that he just decided to grow up. But what they don't realize is that men rarely make those adjustments in a vacuum. His biology doesn't push him toward self-discipline for fun. It pushes him there when he senses the presence of a woman worth aligning himself with. Understand this. Men are not naturally disciplined in the way women think. A man can coast for years in survival mode, chasing short-term thrills, distracted by novelty. But when he sees a woman as his irreplaceable option, he feels a new pressure, the pressure to become worthy of her. He starts imagining a future, and instinctively, he starts editing himself to fit into that vision. This is not conscious romance, it's unconscious strategy. He doesn't say, I'll change for her. His brain says, if I don't evolve, I will lose her. You'll notice this when his vices suddenly shrink. Maybe he spends less time glued to video games. Maybe the weekends of drunken chaos fade into quieter nights. Maybe he starts asking questions about his career path instead of coasting through. To him, these may not feel connected to you. He may not even tell you, but if you pay attention, you'll see the timeline align. The changes begin when his instincts mark you as significant. Now, let's expose another brutal truth. A man can be deeply attracted to you and never make these changes. He can sleep with you, spend time with you, even call you his girlfriend, while making no real adjustments to his life. Why? Because in his mind, you haven't crossed that line into irreplaceable. You're still optional. This is the hardest pill to swallow because many women think titles equal significance. They think being called girlfriend means she's the one. But titles are cheap. A man can hand them out casually. Transformation is expensive. A man only pays that price when he sees no better alternative. The question you need to ask yourself is this: is he adjusting his identity around me, or is he asking me to adjust mine around him? Because in most cases where women end up feeling drained, it's the latter. They bend their schedules, their standards, their lives, just to maintain his interest. But the man who sees you as the one flips that equation. He begins bending around you, not because you demanded it, but because his instincts force him to. Another hidden sign is in how he starts planning differently. Men who see women as temporary plan in 24-hour windows. They think about tonight, maybe the weekend. Their calendars are filled with short-term gratification. But a man who sees you as the one starts weaving you into his long-term map. He'll drop subtle clues, often without realizing it. He might mention what his life will look like 5 years from now, and you're in that picture. He might talk about future investments, where he wants to live, or what kind of family dynamic he envisions, and suddenly he's using we instead of I. Don't underestimate this shift in language. Men don't speak in we by default. They guard their independence. They protect their autonomy. But when he starts merging your future with his in casual conversation, it means something primal has taken root. He is anchoring his survival strategy to you. That is not romance. That is commitment at the instinctual level. But here's where many women fail. They hear those words and think the game is won. They relax. They stop observing. They stop testing his consistency. And that's when mistakes happen. Because some men mimic these behaviors as a strategy to secure compliance. They'll use we language, not because they see you as the one, but because they know it keeps you invested. You have to look past the words and observe the congruence. Does his behavior match the future he's describing? Does he align his actions with those promises? Because the man who truly sees you as irreplaceable will not just talk about the future. He will begin building the infrastructure for it, piece by piece, even before you realize it. Another powerful sign is how he responds to conflict. Most men who see women as temporary withdraw when things get hard. They argue, they deflect, or they simply disappear. Conflict is expensive, and they're not willing to pay that price for someone they don't see as significant. But a man who sees you as the one approaches conflict differently. He may not enjoy it, he may not even handle it gracefully, but he stays in it. He seeks resolution, not escape. Why? Because his instincts tell him that losing you is more dangerous than facing discomfort. That shift alone separates men who are casually invested from men who are biologically locked in. Think of it this way: a man who doesn't care can walk away from a fight and never look back. But a man who sees you as the one will circle back, even if pride tells him not to. His biology won't let him disengage fully, because his subconscious has already coded you as essential to his long-term success. That doesn't mean conflict disappears. It means conflict becomes the forge where he tests the bond. And if you know how to recognize this, you'll never again confuse a man's temporary interest with his true investment. So the real question is this: when you look at the man in your life, is he evolving because of you, Or is he coasting while you bend around him? Is he weaving you into his long-term map? Or is he keeping you locked in the present while he guards his options? The answers are there if you know where to look. Here is where the most invisible shift happens. When a man sees a woman as the one, his behavior in public changes in ways most women overlook. Pay attention to how he presents you to the outside world. A man who sees you as temporary will keep you in a compartment. You may be close in private, but in public, he subtly hides you. He avoids labels, avoids introductions, avoids integrating you into his tribe. Why? Because his instincts know he might replace you. He doesn't want to anchor his identity to someone who won't last. But when you are the one, his instincts flip. He begins to merge reputations. He introduces you to his friends, his family, his colleagues. He stakes his social value on your presence. This isn't about romance, it's about survival. In evolutionary terms, men guarded their most valuable partnerships by locking them into their tribe. The man who keeps you separate is keeping his options open. The man who pulls you into his circle is declaring, even if unconsciously, that he has chosen. Now, watch closely how he reacts when other men enter the picture. The average man, when he doesn't see you as significant, won't care much about competition. He might show flashes of jealousy, but he doesn't fight for what he doesn't value long-term. But when he sees you as the one, his territorial instincts flare. This doesn't always look dramatic. It can be subtle. A shift in tone when another man speaks to you, a protective hand on your back in public, a sudden attentiveness to your presence when rivals are around. These are not small gestures. They are evolutionary alarms ringing in his brain. Protect this woman, or risk losing everything. But let's cut deeper. The true test is not how he acts when everything is going smoothly. It's how he acts when you challenge him. A man who only sees you as temporary will disengage the moment you push back. He'll call you too much, too difficult, or crazy. Why? Because his investment is shallow. He doesn't want friction. He wants ease. But when a man sees you as the one, your challenges don't push him away. They pull him deeper. He leans into them, not because he enjoys the tension, but because his instincts tell him that sharpening himself against you is worth it. He sees your standards not as a threat, but as a forge. This is why women who drop their standards too quickly lose their leverage. The man never feels the pressure to evolve, never feels the weight of losing you. And without that pressure, his instincts never fully lock in. Men don't commit to women who demand nothing. Men commit to women who force them to rise. Brutal, but true. Another hidden sign emerges in his resource allocation. A man can spend money on dinners, gifts, or trips with women he doesn't see as the one. That's performance. That's surface-level investment. But resources go beyond money. Pay attention to where his time goes, where his energy goes, where his sacrifices go. Does he give up sleep to support you? Does he sacrifice opportunities to prioritize you? Does he alter long-term decisions in your favor? These are not casual adjustments. These are primal sacrifices. And men do not make sacrifices for women they don't see as essential. Here's the distinction. Money is renewable, time is not. A man can spend thousands of dollars on someone and forget her a week later. But when he gives you his time in ways that compromise his comfort or goals, that is a hidden sign you've crossed into the one territory. Because biologically, time is the most valuable resource a man has. Now, let's talk about consistency. The man who sees you as temporary runs hot and cold. He floods you with energy one moment, then vanishes when the novelty fades. This is because novelty, not significance, is driving him. But the man who sees you as the one operates differently. He may not always be flashy, he may not drown you in attention, but his presence is consistent. He returns again and again, no matter the circumstance. His rhythm stabilizes because in his mind, you are no longer optional. This doesn't mean perfection. He may falter, he may disappoint. But the key difference is that he recalibrates. He comes back to the bond because his instincts won't let him drift too far. A man who doesn't care won't notice the distance. A man who sees you as the one feels that distance like a threat, and he moves to close it. And here's the last hidden sign most women never see. It's not in his words. It's not in his gifts. It's not even in his protection. It's in the way his life begins to take shape around you without him even realizing it. His goals, his daily habits, his vision of the future, all of it begins bending toward you like plants bend toward sunlight. This is not conscious romance. This is biology. This is instinct writing the blueprint of his life with you as the anchor. The danger is this: if you don't know how to read these signs, you will misinterpret noise as signal. You will waste years on men who never intended to build anything real. But if you see clearly, you hold the power. You stop asking, "Does he love me?" and start asking, "Is he adapting for me?" Because that is the only question that matters. When a man sees a woman as the one, he stops living for himself, alone. He starts living for the bond. And that shift, once it happens, is almost impossible to reverse. The only question left is, do you know how to recognize it before it's too late?